of 9:45 having arrived, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, May 14th. This is the Kane County Board meeting. Thank you, everybody, for coming today, both board members and members of the audience. First on the agenda, would the clerk call the roll?
Allen. Robert.
Here.
Barrio.
Here.
Is that here?
Yes, it's here.
Castro.
Here.
Davis. Here. Donahue. Here. Ford. Here. Franz. Here. Gilliam. Heyman. Here. Holshay. Here. Kenyon. Here. Kazari.
Present.
Lash.
Yes.
Lewis. Molina. Holly. Here. Sheffield. Here. Silva. Here. Smith. Here. Jarrett.
Molina's gone.
Taylor. Here. Vasquez.
Here.
Winicki.
Here.
Okay, and we have a quorum. Today we have several special guests, but we'd like to start out by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. We have Lily Epperly, who is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. She is with her father, Jake, today. So, Lily, would you come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? And would you all rise?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good job. Thank you to the Epperleys. You know, today leading us in prayer, and I will rise again, but I'd like to welcome to the podium Jeff Amaker. Would you come forward? Jeff is an old friend of mine. Jeff and I used to work together at Comprehensive Accounting when I had the privilege to work for my dad for 5 years. Jeff and I would help accountants build their accounting practices. And at one point during the last really bad economic cycle, when the prime rates went up to like 18, 20%, Jeff and I would be in a conference room with, what was it? It was a phone system.
10 speaker phones across the country.
And
this big, each one.
In Kansas City and Minnesota. And Jeff was the specialist, the marketing specialist, and he's going to lead us in prayer today, I believe in the Eastern tradition, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So
thank you very much, Chris, and thank everybody here. When Chris asked me, I told him, I mentioned that I was a Buddhist, and he says, oh, that's great. This is a letter written directly to one of his disciples, Nichiren Daishonin, after 3 of his followers were beheaded. If Itai Doshin, many in body, one in mind, prevails among the people, they will achieve all their goals, whereas in Dotai Ishin, one body, different in mind, they can achieve nothing remarkable. The more than 3,000 volumes of Confucian and Taoist literature are filled with examples. King Chao of Yin led 700,000 soldiers into battle against King Wu of Chao and his 800 men. Yet King Chu's army lost because of disunity, while King Wu's men defeated him because of perfect unity. Even an individual at cross purposes with himself is certain to end in failure. Yet 100 or even 1,000 people can definitely attain their goal if they are of one mind. Though numerous, the Japanese will find it difficult to accomplish anything because they are divided in spirit. On the contrary, I believe that although Nichiren and his followers are few in number, because they act in Itai Doshin, they will accomplish their great mission of propagating the Lotus Sutra. Many raging fires are quenched by a single shower of rain, and many evil forces are vanquished by a single great truth. Nichiren and his followers are proving this. Thank you.
Jeff, thank you very much. Great to have you here again. Okay, next on the agenda is approval of the minutes from April 9th. Could I have a motion and a second? Mr. Vasquez moves it. Dr. Silva, you seconded that, didn't you? So So is there any discussion, any amendments? Are there any amendments, thoughts? No? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. Okay, under new and unfinished business, the first on the agenda is the recognition of the sheriff's staff for 2012 Sheriff's Award. I'm going to ask Sheriff Perez if he'll come up to present these awards. And you have several people who you'd like to recognize. Thank you all for being here. Pat, it's good to see you.
Good morning. I'd like to thank you all for being here. I'd like to thank the board for recognizing our staff. I'm always the one that gets to speak with you and talk in the media and be quoted, but you know what? It's the people that work for us every day, day in, day out, that many of you never see, that are really the heroes in our department, and the people that we have an annual awards dinner that we recognize several categories. First, I'd like to have Deborah Parker step forward. She won our Emily Mosley Civilian of the Year Award. Mind giving Deborah a round of applause? Deborah works in our records division, and we were hesitant to hire her because she was so overqualified and does the work of about 5 people, and we're just ecstatic to have her on our staff. And we will not be presenting the awards today. They've already been presented at a banquet, but today is recognition for the public. Next, Robert Schwer, who is the Court Security Officer of the Year. Robert Schwer did not miss a day of work last year and runs the second floor of the Judicial Center for us. Robert Schwer. Next will be Corey Coleman, was a winner of the Bill Swanson Corrections Officer of the Year Award. Corey Coleman. Corey was one of the wave of people that we hired when we moved to the new facility and has been outstanding, and hopefully he'll be outstanding for many years to come. Next, the Dan Morrissey Award for Officer of the Year. This is through the FOP. Mike Wilgashevitz. He's the midnight shift patrol deputy. Mike is also a field training officer, and he is also an officer in charge in absence of sergeants. He's been an outstanding addition to our agency, and we were very happy to steal him from the Gilbert's Police Department many years ago. And then last, the Dave Stewart Award, and this is a very special award in our department because Dave Stewart was a deputy that worked with us, and we lost him about 10, 12 years ago. He died at the early age of 34, succumbed to cancer. And our agency made an award every year in his name that I picked the person to honor Dave and his dedication to the agency. And this year's winner is Sergeant Christopher Peeler, our day shift sergeant. Chris is one of our best trainers in our agency, does our tactical training. He took time out of their SWAT training today to be here. I was happy for that. I was going to cover for him if he didn't, but I just wanted all of you to put faces with names and join me in congratulating and honoring these people who put their lives on the line for us every day. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Sheriff.
Good see.
Okay, we have a very full agenda today, and for the Chairman Short program, I'm going to relinquish my time to three special speakers that we have, and also later on, not only do we need to go through the different confirmations or the approval by consensus of various appointments, but we also have executive session later on. So if it's all right with you, we're going to go right into the next piece on the agenda, which is speakers on agenda items. We have Michael Ander. Michael, if you'd come forward from Sleepy Hollow. He's going to be addressing Resolution 13108, which is the Jelks Creek Fox River Watershed Action Plan. So thank you very much, Mr. Ander, for coming to share your thoughts today.
Thank you and good morning. My name is Mike Ander. I'm from Sleepy Hollow, and I'm a volunteer with the Jelks Creek Fox River Watershed Coalition. About 3 years ago, a group of stakeholders and I began working to develop a watershed plan for this sub-watershed north of here along in the area of West Dundee and Elgin and East Dundee. We worked with the Kane DuPage Soil Water Conservation District. They facilitated our meetings over a period of 2.5 years, which ended in December of 2012. The Jelks Creek Fox River Watershed Action Plan, which I have here, which is a relatively large document, is one of 11 approved watershed plans within the larger Fox River watershed. So this is a sub-basin within the larger Fox River watershed. It encompasses 7 communities, or at least parts of 7 communities, and the handout, I think that most of you have, has a map on the back, and it shows those 7 communities. So we have Algonquin, Barrington Hills, Dundee, Carpentersville, East Dundee, West Dundee, Sleepy Hollow, and a portion of Elgin. So Kane County, the Kane DuPage Soil and Water Conservation District, while they were the facilitator of these meetings, the Illinois EPA funded this watershed plan along with the other watershed plans that have been approved. The closest ones probably here are Tyler Creek and First and Otter, which are to the north. It was approved in December 2012, and at that time the coalition was formed to help facilitate implementation of this plan, get the information out to the villages, and work with the villages to hopefully to get some funding. So the stakeholders for the coalition to begin the preparation of this plan included not only Kane and DuPage Soil and Water Conservation District, but representatives from municipalities, residents, and agency personnel. The plan is not a legal document. This is a planning tool that we would hope the villages would use as they develop new ordinances and help with their comprehensive plans, but it's basically a planning document. And it's a living document that can be adjusted and revised as we go forward. The objectives of the plan are listed in the handout, but fundamentally there's one objective, and that's to improve groundwater quality and surface water quality in our communities. So that is what we try to do. That's what the plan hopes to accomplish over years, a period of years as it's implemented. There are a whole group of projects listed in the back of the plan. 2 villages, Algonquin and West Dundee, actually hired consultants to develop detailed projects. Other villages just offered projects they had on their agendas that have yet to be funded or implemented. So there are a lot of projects that can be implemented right now when funding becomes available. The plan is available in its entirety on the Kane DuPage Soil Water Conservation website, and there's a tab on the upper right-hand corner that says Jelks Creek, and that provides the entire plan. What the coalition is hoping to generate, or at least to accomplish when talking to the municipalities within its jurisdiction here, is that they review the plan, that they adopt the plan, and we've provided sample resolutions for the villages to adopt the plan, that they consider the plan again in their development and planning as they go forward to increase the sizes of their community and the management of their surface water and groundwater resources. We hope that they would work with their communities to educate their communities, not only as far as the departments within the communities and the municipalities themselves, but that they educate the villagers, because everybody has an individual responsibility to help improve surface water and groundwater resources. Many of us live on groundwater. We don't have public water. We have our own private wells. But we all have access to and work with surface water, whether it runs off our properties into the rivers and creeks within our communities. We all have that responsibility. We'd also like villages and members of the county board to become members of our coalition, if in fact you have interest in our communities. And we have a meeting on May 28th at 5 o'clock in the Schweitzer Forest Preserve building up on Sleepy Hollow Road in West Dundee. Those are basically all the comments I have with regard to this plan. I want to thank Becky Gillum for helping arrange for me to speak today, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions that the board may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. And, for coming today. We appreciate your presentation.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, take care. Okay, you know, today we're here to exercise our gift of self-governance, so let's do our constituents proud. The consent agenda, is there anyone who would like to remove any item from the consent agenda? Ms. Allen. Okay, so 13108, 13109. Okay, Mr. Kenyon?
13-110.
13-110. Mr. Donahue? 126. Others? Ms. Allen?
13-110.
That's already been taken off. 112. Okay.
112.
All right. Next. Any others?
I should have done that.
If none, okay. If there are no others, I have, and check these, I have 108, 109, 110, 112, 126. Any others? If not, I'll ask for a motion to pass the consent agenda. Motion by Dr. Silva, second by Ms. Lesh. All those in, any discussion, comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Oh, excuse me. We're going to go ahead and roll call. Yeah, I'd say that's significant enough for a roll call.
Ellen? Aye. Otter? Yes. Berry?
Yes.
Castro?
Yes.
Dennis? Yes. Donahue? Yes. Ford? Yes. Fries? Yes. Gillen?
Yes.
Heyman?
Yes.
O'Shea? Yes. Kenyon? Yes. Kazari?
Yes.
Lash?
Yes.
Lewis? Molina? Holly? Yes. Sheffel? Yes. Silva?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Vasquez?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion and second passes. Okay, next on the agenda then would be 13-108. Ms. Allen?
Mr. Chairman, I've been on the board, this is my 11th year, kind of a wonderment in itself, but when I was first coming on the board...
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. We need to make a
Oh,
motion.
excuse me. Oh, okay, excuse me. Could I ask for a motion? So moved by Ms. Allen, second by Mr. Kenyon, and I'm sorry, into the discussion. Thank you very much, Mr. Vasquez. Mr. Smith.
Jelke's Creek was on the horizon as a property for the Forest Preserve to buy, but there were a lot of people who said it's not connected enough to any of our missions to be worth purchasing. And the controversy was that it was a a parcel that was shaped like this, maybe like this, and this little bit of area here was right on Route 72, so it could be turned into a strip mall or something like that. Now, I don't know what you do with the rest of it, because somebody's not going to shop here and park here, but at any rate, that was a controversy in the community that that land could go in a couple of different directions. So I just wanted to give credit to the Forest Preserve for figuring out over time, took 10 years, to maybe 8 years, to figure out that this was a valuable piece of property, that it was land we wanted to protect, and importantly, water that we wanted to protect. So I just wanted to give a history to some of us who weren't around when that was going on.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Are there any other comments? If not, a motion's been made, seconded. Oh, excuse me, Ms. Gillum.
I just wanted to make a short statement. I wanted to thank Mike Ander. He's one of 50 people who worked for several years to bring this important matter to the forefront. And also the Kane DuPage Soil and Water Conservation people were awesome, I understand, in implementing this grant. Couple things I wanted to point out was that these municipalities that fall in this are all fairly small. They have small staffs, and they don't have the resources to go through the analysis that requires to come up with these goals and achievements. And so this is a valuable tool for them. They actually, this is a little bit different than most of the protection plans that I've seen, in that they actually looked at the specific ordinances in each municipality, analyzed them, and made suggestions on how each municipality can reach the goals that are established in this plan. And I think that's a unique aspect to this plan, and I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gillum. Any other thoughts, comments? If not, the motion's been made, seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Aye.
Oliver?
Yes.
Ferrario? Yes. Castro? Yes. Davis?
Yes.
Donahue?
Yes.
Ford? Yes. Frye?
Yes.
Gillum?
Yes.
Heyman?
Yes.
Olszak?
Yes.
Kenyon?
Yes.
Missouri?
Yes.
Lash? Yes. Molina? Absent. Alec? Yes. Jeffro?
Yes.
Silva?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Third absent. Taylor?
Yes.
Vasquez? Yes.
Motion passes.
Wonicky, yes. Wonicky, yes.
I'll be sure to get, I'll call you twice next time.
Just like Chicago.
Thank you very much. The motion passes. Now on to 13109. I believe that's Ms. Allen.
I'll move it.
We need a motion. Ms. Allen moves it, second by Ms. Castro. Discussion? Ms. Allen.
A number of us are lucky enough to live in historic areas, and preserving the buildings and the meanings behind the buildings in our communities is just real important to us. And I'm pleased that that Kane County has a program like this. And Mr. Donahue, do you want to say anything about this particular nomination?
Sure. First of all, speaking to our historic preservation program here in Kane County, it's one of the best programs in the state, and our staff does an excellent job of working with property owners to go through the landmarking process, which is a significant process involving documentation and so forth. Seven Oaks Farms property is a beautiful piece of property for anybody who's gone by there. I'm not sure if our historic preservation planner is here to speak to the specifics as to the historic significance of the property, or maybe Mr. Van Kerkhoff could address that. But this property is clearly worthy of landmark designation. And one of the key things is the property owner support for the designation. Oftentimes, properties are targeted for designation, and the landowner, for a variety of reasons, may not support that. And the landowners here were supportive of it, involved in initiating it, and that speaks to the quality of this particular application.
Well, following up on Mr. Donahue, calling up Mr. Van Kerkhoff, would you want to give just a brief description, then we're going to go to Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I'll just give the highlight, but designations can be for association with famous people, with events, great examples of architecture with a lot of integrity, or the works of a master architect. And this nomination has all the above, which is very unique because it is a beautiful farmstead. There are several people, owners, who were significant in the horse industry in Kane County and the nation. And then most recently, the current owner, the Jans, Helmut Jahn, is an internationally known architect based out of Chicago, and he did a beautiful retrofit of one of the barns on the property using his modern style to add flavor to it. So it really has all the above. It's very unique. Encourage you to drive by it.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kerkhoff. Mr. Smith?
I think one of the greatest values of this preservation ordinance is the fact that we have, especially in this parcel here, farm property that will never be developed into a subdivision. And that will maintain the character of Kane County the way it is.
Okay, thank you very much. Other comments? If not, motion's been made, seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Ellen? Audrey? Murray? Castro?
Yes.
Davis? Yes. Donahue?
Yes.
Ford? Yes. Fries? Yes. Gillum?
Yes.
Heyman?
Yes.
O'Shea?
Yes.
Kenyon? Yes. Zeri?
Yes.
Lash?
Yes.
Pollock? Yes. Sheffro?
Yes.
Silver? Smith?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Vasquez? Yes. Winnicki?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
The motion passes. Number 13-110, I believe, Mr. Kenyon, you asked for it to be taken off the consent agenda. We need a motion. Ms. Castro, second by Mr. Kenyon. Comments, and let's lead off with Mr. Kenyon.
I am asked to take this off, maybe so we can toot our own horn. Since 2001, we've been involved in this program. We were the only county in the state of Illinois, one of the few in the Midwest, to take federal funds, put them with our money, and preserve farmland out in the area. I will tell you, at first, the farmers were really scared. They didn't know what the county was going to do or the government, but in time, they were convinced this was a good deal. If you were a father or a grandfather and you didn't want to see townhouses on your farm, this is the way to do it, and the farm could be farmed forever. And it's a great program, and Kane County, once again, leads the way in the state of Illinois in progress.
Thank you, Mr. Kenyon. Other thoughts? Ms. Wodnicki?
Thank you, Chairman Laws. And I just want to add, and TR, Mike, and I are a pretty good team regarding farmland protection, but the funds for farmland protection are awarded to us through the Queen Victoria Riverboat in Elgin. And then with our Riverboat Committee, they allot so many funds, and we get to move ahead. And then the feds will have funds available through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And each year, sometimes the feds have leftover funds that have not been used, and they always seem to call Kane County because you have to be absolutely prepared and ready to go when they call you, very much like a grant. You have to be very prepared and ready to go. And thank you to Janice Hill and Mark Van Kerkhoff. Our staff is superb. And actually, this resolution that we're passing today, we will be receiving $385,000 from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Thank you.
It's actually going to be considered in committee, or the committee, and it's an up to a match to receive those funds, a match up to $1.6 million of county funds to secure up to the $386,000. Some final decisions need to be made quickly on that, but we're going to be moving along on that also today. Mr. Smith.
I'll echo what Mr. Kenyon said. I think the proof that this has become such a successful program is that we now have a waiting list of farms that would like to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts, comments? If not, the motion's been made, seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Allen?
Yes.
Guerrero?
Yes.
Castro?
Yes.
Davis? Yes. Donahue?
Yes.
Ford? Yes. Fries?
Yes.
Gilliam?
Yes.
Heyman?
Yes.
O'Shea?
Yes.
Kenyon?
Yes.
Zeri?
Yes.
Lash?
Yes.
Pollock? Yes. Sheffro?
Yes.
Silver? Yes. Smith?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Vasquez?
Yes.
Winnicki?
Yes.
The motion passes. Next, number 13112, Ms. Allen moves it, seconded by Mr. Kozarek. Was that your motion to move off the?
It was just.
So, Ms. Allen, thank you very much.
If we're going to be aware, then I think we should pull it off the consent agenda and say we are going to be aware that there are people on motorcycles driving around in the good weather and we need to watch out for them. And I will defer to some of our own motorcycle riders. Mr. Smith, do you care to say anything?
Yeah, this issue or this resolution was brought forward by ABATE. ABATE stands for Americans Brotherhood of whatever, but it was basically composed of outlaw motorcycle groups that were opposed to the wearing of helmets, and they wanted to change the law. That was their direction. What has happened is that ABATE now has become a mainstream organization concerned with motorcycle safety. So I think it's very appropriate that they came forward with this.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Kozarek?
I don't drive a motorcycle like TR or Mike Kenyon, but TR made the same statement in executive committee, and I let it slide then. ABATE was never opposed to wearing of helmets. What they were was they were in favor of the freedom to allow people to decide for themselves, and that's my only statement. There's a big difference in that.
Thank you. That's nuance.
I am not going to get into an argument with you, Mr. Kozarek. That was basically what their goal was and their definition of, but underlying was the fact that they were opposed to wearing of helmets.
Yes. Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, Mr. Kozarek, Mr. Vasquez, you're going to add to the... Mr. Vasquez, take your shots when you can get them.
You can. I want to congratulate Mike for driving his motorcycle and TR for bringing his Corvette.
Okay, thank you. The motion's been made, seconded. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Kenyon?
I didn't start riding a motorcycle till children were raised and all this, and I couldn't be hit with who's going to take care of the kids. But it's a wonderful way to enjoy outdoors. And when you're on your motorcycle, you can really smell the flowers and the trees. And of course, you can get hit by the birds and the bees. Usually I have to leave the driveway with a helmet for proof that from my plastic brain, but it's a wonderful way to enjoy Kane County.
Yes, it is. Any other thoughts or comments? If not, motion's been made, seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Allen? Aye.
Yes.
Rivera?
Yes.
Castro? Yes. Davis? Yes. Donahue?
Yes.
Ford? Yes. Fries?
Yes.
Young?
Yes.
Heyman?
Yes.
O'Shea? Yes. Kenyon?
Yes.
Kazari?
Yes.
Nash? Moynihan? Collins? Jeffrey?
Yes.
Silva? Smith?
Yes.
Taylor? Vasquez?
Yes.
And Winnicki?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Next item is number 13126. We need a motion. Ms. Castro, seconded by Mr. Vasquez. Mr. Donahue?
Chairman, first, I'll apologize to the chairman and board members for raising these issues at the full county board meeting, but I'm not on the Human Services Committee and I'm not on Finance, and unfortunately I was unable to make those meetings when this issue was addressed. And at executive, I did not have a markup showing all of the amendments, so it's only since executive that I've been able to review all of the proposed amendments to this ordinance. And since that time, my concern is that it doesn't address really what I believe is the core issue of the reason why we were taking a look at the hiring freeze ordinance in the first place. As you recall, the reason that we decided to take a look at the ordinance was a result of the manner in which the animal control billing manager position was created. Originally, it was justified as an emergency and then was created really outside the bounds of our hiring freeze ordinance at the time, under the auspices of it being a temporary position, and neither of those circumstances were contemplated in the ordinance. So my thought was that the purpose of the review was to look at those ambiguities and to come up with an ordinance that addresses those ambiguities. While the proposed amendments do address the issue of an emergency, it doesn't really address the creation of new temporary positions. And as we sit here today, there are 2 new temporary positions posted in the county board office, that of the community outreach coordinator and the assistant community outreach coordinator. I shared electronic communication with the chairman about those positions. I've read the job descriptions. Frankly, I still don't have enough information about those to know what they're for or what the purpose is. I really feel that new positions should be justified through the committee process, whether they be temporary or permanent, when you have a hiring freeze in place. If we don't have a hiring freeze in place, I suppose you can do that, but the fact is that we do have a hiring freeze in place. And so I find that the proposed amendments that we have on the table today do nothing to address the original issue, which was the creation of permits of new positions outside the parameters of the hiring freeze. And in my opinion, the county board chairman should not be able to create new positions without the review and approval of the county board, whether they be temporary or permanent, when we have a hiring freeze in place. Now, if we want to discuss rescinding the hiring freeze so that we can create new positions either in the county board chairman's office or other department heads want to do that, I suggest through the budgetary process, that's fine, but we had the billing manager position created, we have 2 new positions being created, and in none of those cases have they gone through a committee process, and we have a hiring freeze in place. So for that reason, I'm not going to support the proposed amendments today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Donahue. Other thoughts, questions? Okay. Mr. Davis?
But I would support what Mr. Donahue's pointing out. I think we took several steps in the right direction with this, and I am on Human Services. The new language comes up a little bit short in addressing emergencies. For example, I find the language to be too ambiguous there. It simply describes a decrease in revenue. It doesn't say anything more to that. That seems very open-ended. So, $1 less collected constitutes an emergency. I think we have a little more work to do on the language here. With regard to the new postings, community outreach, it's interesting. I mean, today we have a long list of appointments, and as we go through that, we find many of those are non-compensated positions. We have a tremendous example of volunteerism at the Forest Preserve and with this list. So it's not that community outreach isn't a genuinely, a noble cause and a worthwhile pursuit. I don't mean that at all, but perhaps we could start by looking for people who are willing to contribute without compensation, particularly in light of being in austere times and trying to operate under a freeze of the levy. So I echo Mr. Donahue's feelings on not supporting this amendment at this time.
Okay. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Ms. Auger?
I actually have to agree with Mike and Mark also. The creation of any new position should be done with approval of the board, especially if they weren't in the budget. I mean, if they were pre-budgeted, I can understand creating new positions, but if they're not in the budget, they should be volunteer positions or at least approved by the full board.
Okay, let's take a couple of things, back to the into balance. First of all, the idea that a billing manager is somehow outside of what the current positions were. I hope that the majority of the board members recognize that the billing function over at Animal Control Shelter was in place, but just not being done well. We've gone through all of the committee meetings, whether it's Human Services, Finance. I think that there was another one that this has come in and out of and also been considered there. We faced an emergency, whether some folks want to admit it or not, 2 years ago, and we have gone over this many times, but let's go over it another time as the objections are being raised, like somehow there wasn't an emergency and that emergency was going to heal itself. 2 years ago, we had $800,000 of revenue. Last year, we had $600,000 of revenue. The $200,000 deficit led to subsidy being necessary of $45,000 from all the taxpayers having to pay in to subsidize the animal control shelter. In addition, there was a $93,000 equivalent of a mortgage that was missed. Now that mortgage payment of nearly $100,000 is going to have to be made this year. The first month had gone by, and rather than collecting at a pace of $800,000 a year, which is about $72,000 to $74,000 a month, in the month of December, we collected about $1,200, so about $1,000, so 1/74th of what needed to be done. In January, we were going in the same direction. All you have to do is do 2 months of that, go to a third month, and you cannot catch up with what's gone. Now, I know that out in the private sector, we'd be celebrating initiative for decision-making and going forward. I also understand that this has been a wonderful learning process of actually, if I had been aware of the emergency provision and what's been drafted through the good work of many of the people on the board in the committee work, all we would have done is taken action through doing all the procedures and then come back within those 45 days to get the approval. Which do you want? Do you want no action taken and no money in the bank, or do you want a decision made, take action, and now for those 45 days you got $100,000 in the bank? I know that any taxpayer who we all serve would prefer to have the second option, which means get the money in the bank, make the decisions, do your best to now go back and get approval in an emergency situation. Second item, the two, where, I am trying to learn in this process where research needs to be made of the function of outreach to the community, whether that's web construction, all the kinds of things where there are positions that have not been filled. I have to get some research done so that I can come back to the board and present you with something that's coherent. What I'm looking for is someone to do a research project for me, and rather than go through, well, I just pick somebody, I go through the process of asking help. And Sheila, I appreciate your helping me put together the job description for basically a contract that would be in place for a short period of time where we would reach out to various segments. This morning, again, I read a United Van Line publication that says that Illinois is just behind New Jersey for the number of people who are moving away. Okay? We need to have reasons why people stay and live here. I think that you've taken great steps forward in our commitment of freezing the property tax levies. It's one of the main reasons why people just say, I'm not going to pay the freight anymore. And so what is it that's going to make this place a place that we all want to continue to live in, other than keeping a grip on the tax burden that we all share? So the segments are veterans, youth, taxpayers, employers, seniors, all these different areas. And in order to come back to you and give you something that is coherent and halfway intelligible, I need a little help on that. I think that as chairman, the board has granted me a little spending autonomy within strict limits, which is up to a $30,000 approval that I can go and get work done if I need it to bring it back. So the first one, the horse is out of the gate and it's already winning races for you and bringing money in to the coffers. In the last 3 months, approximately $250,000. On the web development community outreach, as a research project, need some help on that. However, that has not even come into the gate yet, and so I am open to all the advice from board members. But the idea here is, do we have emergency, and do our constituents, and the answer is obviously yes to that, and in a different environment, we would be celebrating initiative and decision-making, and let's see, and well, I think the emergency is one, and do we need to update the procedure, and that's the work that's been done in all the committees. So, Ms. Castro, was there anything that you wanted to address from being the chairperson of the group that did the work on this update?
I think the committee worked very, very hard on crafting this language as best we can. I hear Mike. You know, Mike is bringing an interesting point. Is that addressed? I mean, I'm kind of, it doesn't seem like it, but it also does fall in it. Again, it's the vagueness of that one language that's there. But it is contractual. So is there, what would, if there's something we could do to revise this, Mike, I just don't want this hard work that this committee has put forth to end up having to send it back to the committee. Is there something in the language where we can fine tune it here?
Oh, no, we're not going to go through and do language editing at the board level after all the work that's been done and then approved in various. This would not be, I mean, it's a heroic suggestion, but this is not the place to be doing language adjustments. But I mean, we have an objection, and those people are welcome to vote their conscience, and then we see whether it's the will of the board as a whole to move forward or not. And people can vote yes, and they can vote no. Mr. Vasquez.
I just want to address the point about emergencies, Mike. We did discuss those. And as far as emergencies, it wasn't just a dollar amount or because of financial issues. It was services related. We discussed that at length, guys. And we talked about, you know, the issue with the person who died in the transportation department, and it took 90 days to replace that person during the middle of winter. It was not just dollar amounts. So there was other, you know, instances that we discussed. The hiring freeze is pretty clear. Any new position has to come in front of the board. Temporary or full, I think. I mean, what distinguishes one from the other? I don't know.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vasquez. Mr. Hoshite?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this ordinance, or the policy as revised, did come through Finance Committee, and I think that as it relates to some of the changes that we made, they have to do with an issue that Mr. Donahue didn't address, and that is the policy that we've decided to amend, and that relating to replacing someone who is budgeted already on your staff. We've been going through our Finance Committee agendas on a monthly basis, and we'll have 3 or 4 items from various departments requesting approval to replace an employee who retired or who was already budgeted. Now, when we originally adopted the hiring freeze, we wanted to screen everyone, and I know Mr. Shefflow objected to the revisions we proposed now because he thought we should still do that, and I respect his opinion on that. But the majority of the committee said, for individuals who are already budgeted, we do not require staff to come back. As long as they're in your budget and they're existing personnel, you can replace them. So that change in this draft, I think, is important because it's a procedural issue for the staff and doesn't require them to come through a committee process to get that done. Regarding the other issue, though, the issue, and I think as it relates to emergencies, we came to a good compromise. One of the issues that was raised to me regarding emergency hires was, is there a system in place for the board to know about an emergency hire, and is there a procedure to deal with that? And we dealt with it the best we could. That process now will require communication with the chairman of the committee that oversees that function, get their approval, and then they have to come back to get it ratified if it's going to be a permanent position within 45 days. That addresses the emergency concern. I think we'll be in a good position there. The final issue relates to the posting of the positions, which quite frankly we didn't discuss and was not an issue. But my personal opinion on that would be, and we may be splitting hairs here, but we do in a budget, let's just look at the county board's chairman's budget. We do approve a budget that has some discretionary spending in it. And to the extent that that spending was to hire outside contractors to do certain work, then I think that would be within that understood discretion when the budget was approved. But given the hiring freeze, if you're going to hire an employee, whether it's temporary or permanent, I think that may technically violate the spirit of the hiring freeze, because that person becomes an employee and then is entitled to benefits and everything else that would come with the employment part of it. So if we needed a website designer or someone to help us with that, typically that may be outsourced anyway to an independent contractor who didn't have the employment connection with the county. But if you're going to hire a temporary employee, and I'm just picking on this issue now because you were requesting feedback on it, I think Christina's right in terms of that. I don't want to amend the agreement, the ordinances or the policy is drafted, but if someone said to me, we've hired temporary employees in a given department and it's not an emergency situation and it wasn't in the budget, is that something that we should have considered? I think if we're going to have this freeze in place, that's something we should consider. So again, we don't want to micromanage. I think our board is a policy-making board. We set big picture decisions when we approve budgets. We provide autonomy within those budgets, but it's been the economic financial constraints that we've had to deal with that have set this hiring freeze in place, and so that's my thought on it. So as it relates to the existing policy that's proposed, I'm in favor of moving it forward because it addresses the concerns we talked about regarding having to come back for budgeted employees and emergency personnel. And regarding this temporary situation, that's something we can talk about in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Hoshai. Mr. Frost?
The resolution at hand, I think everything's been said. This did, Human Services, I compliment them in exec. I think they just did a great job. And this did come to finance here. We tweaked it even more and at exec also. So I think it's gone through the proper channels. I would like to remind everybody a couple issues related to the community outreach positions. If you think back to last November, the previous chairman essentially shut down the county board office for almost 6 weeks. She reassigned key personnel out of the office. If you remember, Barb Garza was one of the hardest working people in the office, a key person. She was one of our top researchers on issues the chairman just recently mentioned. She handled things such as the redistricting, gambling, data collecting, special events. She's been gone for 6 months, and we have a new chairman that came from outside the board, who's worked without that position for 6 months. In the past, we've always given the chairman great discretion on staffing that office. I see no reason why we can't continue to do so in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Frost. And if there's anyone else, I'm going to give Mr. Donahue the last word.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say, Mr. Chairman, I don't take issue with your justification for any of the positions. I think your justification for the billing manager position is well-founded. I'm still learning about the new positions in your office, so I don't have enough information on those, but I'm not taking issue with the justification for any of these things. But we have a hiring freeze on. It's not a hiring slushy. It's a freeze. And the way this resolution is currently drafted, there is a gaping loophole in it. You can create new positions with a hiring freeze in place by calling them temporary. Now, there's no concept of what happens after the temporary employee has been with us and doing a great job and has justified his or her role in the county. Do we fire that person then for having done a good job? This is a hiring freeze. I mean, this reminds me of being grounded as a kid and then trying to find exceptions to the grounding rules so I could get out of the house. We're either going to have a bunch of holes in the Swiss cheese here, or we're going to have a hiring freeze. And by not addressing the concept of temporary hires, you've basically left a gaping loophole in this ordinance to allow new positions to be created without any committee scrutiny or county board approval. I agree with John. We don't want to micromanage our department heads or the county board chairman. Well, you have a hiring freeze on. If you want that latitude, take the hiring freeze off. I mean, I'm a literal person. We either have a freeze on or we don't. And This ordinance is a freeze slushy, the way I read it right now. It can be interpreted still, it's wide open, and it doesn't close the loopholes that I thought we were setting out to do. Thank you.
Okay, and let me just so that we don't mix a whole bunch of different topics, we're talking about modifications that have been requested in a specific policy. The hiring freeze has had exceptions since that was put in place, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. There have been scores, if not hundreds, of people hired. So if you call that a slushy, then there are exceptions to operating an organization 1,260 people strong. Also to clarify, the temporary nature, the assignment nature of what I'm looking for, well, who's out there and who's competent. It is not for an employment position. It is for a contract, specific assignment. If it develops into something more than that, that would come back using all these processes for an employment position. But you know, there have been lobbyists that have been supported with your vote. There have been communications people supported with your vote. The idea of replacing people who are lost, I think that that is very important. We've had some, we do need to have a certain amount of latitude, and we can say we're not micromanaging, but to have this discussion and trying to get clarification and then going through so many different committees, at a certain point you can kill initiative. And there's going to be times that I'm going to ask for your understanding within the procedures that we take action, decide, and protect the taxpayers' interests, and then within 45 days I'll be back to you to go through the committee process. So there's a practical side to this.
That's exactly what I was
Frost.
going to point out. I mean, it says right in the ordinance, within 45 days. I mean, there's the closing of the loophole. We can hire someone temporarily, but it has to come back within 45 days. And if we want to move it onto a full-time position, then it has to be debated. Pardon me?
Those are emergencies. I don't think the community outreach coordinator is an emergency.
No, but it's also not an employee, Mr. Donahue. It's not an employee.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Allen?
That's the distinction I would like to ask here. I think of the hiring freeze as having to do with employees, and a 1099, a non-benefit person, being a different one. Are we discussing here that if we want to contract for a lobbyist, we would like that to come to the board, or if we want to contract for some position, that we would like to see those before the hires? I mean, what if they are under the $30,000 limit? Do we want to see everything under $30,000? I was one of the people who voted to have the limit be $10,000 because I thought we should look at how money was being spent. But at the moment, we have a $30,000 level, so I would think if it's under that, we would leave that for discretion.
Thanks. Ms. Castro?
I think where the confusion comes in is when you look, I hear what he's saying about contractual services, but that's something that's RFP'd out through purchasing. And because this position is posted in the HR employment section, I think that's why Michael is having the concern about it, because it does seem as if it's a temporary employee. He does have a right to hire a company or consulting services if he would bid it out through purchasing. Maybe that's the route the chairman would like to go.
I'm under the impression that that is for an assignment over $30,000.
I think the previous chairman did that before. She was able to do that.
Well, okay. How about if we'll stay on the subject today, and I'll listen with both ears and look at all the thoughts with both eyes as far as moving initiatives forward. But we'll let's stay focused on what is in front of us today. It's a motion and a second on approving the work that's been done in the committees for the adjustments that have been made to the hiring freeze. Ms. Lesh?
Mr. Chairman, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm trying to understand more of the hiring freeze as well. If we were to lift that, would that come back to executive or finance, or when do we as the board look at a hiring freeze being lifted?
We're not discussing a hiring freeze being lifted. What we're talking about is how we continue to implement the hiring freeze in adjusting economic conditions.
I understand that, but like in the future, even if we were to, when our economic does get better, would that go to executive? Would it come to?
No, it would go to a standing committee, and then it would go through the normal processes. Mr. Vasquez?
On that point is that in the ordinance, it clearly states that every 6 months it will be reviewed by Finance Committee. So we do have 6 months from now, we'll be reviewing that again.
From now or from the last time?
From now.
Okay, thank you.
Good. So we'll be back here in 6 months. So with that, any other thoughts? We'll go ahead and I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Allen.
Aye.
Otter.
No.
Barrio.
Yes.
Castro.
Yes.
What's that?
Yes.
Yes. Nevis. No. Donahue.
No.
Ford. Yes. Praz.
Yes.
William.
Yes.
Heyman.
Yes.
O'Shea. Yes. Kenyon. No. Missouri.
Yes.
Lash.
Yes.
Pollock. Yes. Jeffro.
No.
Silva.
Yes.
Smith. Yes. Taylor.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Winnicki.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 16-5. Thank you very much for the discussion on that point. Okay, next on the agenda is number 13-147. I'd like to ask a motion to approve the resolution. Mr. Heyman moves, seconded by Mr. Vasquez. Comments? Thoughts? Ms. Taylor?
I am on Human Services as well as exec, so from the time that the initial proposals came forward, I've watched the presentations and read all of the data that's come forward up until now. So just want to make sure everybody knows that. I have a couple questions, and I don't know if Sheila's here today.
She's here.
She's probably. I have a couple of questions and observations that I've noticed over the last couple weeks as this process has been going. One, do you know the date of when our current contract ends? It's the end of June, is that correct? Correct. Okay. And how hard is that deadline? How set in stone is that deadline?
That's the expiration date.
Would their medical service be canceled?
I mean, you can't be flexible.
One of the variables that has come into this from the time these the proposals came forward is there's an element of Obamacare that we need to pay attention to here in Kane County. What concerns me is during the presentations of the four, only two of the companies that came forward mentioned Obamacare in those presentations. That's another piece of the puzzle that we need to pay attention to here in Kane County. Also, I brought up at a couple committees now the element of opting out that two of the four mentioned it in presentations. The one that is listed in here did not mention it as potential opportunities on behalf of Kane County. Also, let me see here. I got little notes. I also believe that $1 million contract. So it's not a small contract regarding something else that we need every detail before we officially choose to go forward with it.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. There wasn't a question for Sheila in there. I mean, there wasn't a, I mean, I appreciate you listed off 3 concerns that you have, if I heard correctly. So, but I didn't hear a question.
My question was the end date of the existing contract, which from what I understand is the end of June.
Correct.
And sometimes the contracts end, sometimes they officially end versus other ones going to, I don't know if it's one that extends any farther should that contract not be finished.
Would it be your intention to meet the deadline that has been established, that this contract is over and needs to be reconsidered by June 30th? Do you intend to meet that deadline that has been in place for some time?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Any, Mr. Vasquez?
Yeah, it's very important that we take action now versus later on this issue, because this broker has to go out there and start negotiating our contract for the renewal. And, you know, all those issues that Ms. Taylor brought forward can be addressed in the committee process as we move forward, as we look at plan design, changes, and all those particular issues. I got to tell you, our current broker has saved us millions of dollars throughout the years, 3 years that we've had them working. They have worked their buns off for Kane County, and I totally support it. I support the action we're taking now, and those concerns, I think, can be addressed at committee level.
Okay, thank you. Other thoughts, Mr. Davis?
Melissa, your concerns over the effect of Obamacare are shared by probably everybody in the room. And it's a great unknown what the effect will be to a large extent. This would be, absent some reason to move away from the current broker, you actually enjoy somebody who understands us very well. And as you enter these troubled waters, if you will, of you know, dealing with Obamacare and its effect, I think it is in our favor that we've got somebody that's already been on board with us, knows us very well, has been performing beautifully, saving us millions of dollars, and they are aware of the storm coming, and they are watching it. So I support this fully.
Okay. Other thoughts, comments? Dr. Silva?
The one concern that I have, and I know that Melissa expressed this in executive, is the opt-out option, because that can continue to save us even more money. And I think that was something that could have possibly been addressed a little bit easier. So I'd like to know if there was any more information on that. Is there an opt-out option?
Sheila, do we have an opt-out provision in our insurance?
Currently, the county has a policy that if you do not adopt our insurance, that you could attain a death benefit in the event that you as an employee die. It would go to your beneficiary. I think that what's being discussed here, though, is a provision that would allow employees to opt out of our insurance and receive an incentive for doing so. In the past, that has been actually talked about at the committee level. In fact, before we adopted the wellness participation program that linked participation in the wellness program to your employee contribution, there was a discussion at the committee level about adopting other provisions to decrease costs, and those other provisions would be offering an incentive for employees not to take our health insurance. Now, that's an option that the board can actually discuss at any time prior to actually entering into an agreement with an insurer. And there's certainly no reason why the county could not have those discussions for 2013 heading into the 2014 year. The issue really is, though, if you're going to adopt a provision allowing employees to opt out of your insurance, you've got to set the dollar amount incentive high enough so that it is worthy of employees considering taking the incentive to opt out of the insurance. And that's really where the discussions have kind of bogged down. Where do you set the incentive? What dollar amount do you set?
Well, and just so that there was that earlier discussion, we do have some type of opt-out option because in our family, we have opted out of the county health care, and without this incentive payment. And so we do have something like that. And I think that what you're addressing is ways of saving premium dollars on our health care, which is all important. And it's an ongoing process that a lot of people have worked very hard on that. So other thoughts? I think Ms. Lesh, did you have a question or
I did,
a comment?
thank you. My question was, and I don't recall seeing or hearing it, is that if someone opts to take the insurance through the county and they bring over a spouse or something and they have previous insurance by some other company, pre-existing condition, is that going to carry over onto the new insurance then as well? You know, is that a possibility?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? And again, what this motion and second is, it's proposing to retain the health, our current health insurance broker and consultants. Other thoughts? Going to go back to Mr. Vasquez. Did you have any other further? Okay. If there are no other comments, questions, then clerk will call the roll.
Allen.
Aye.
Hunter.
Yes.
Merrill. Yes. Castro. Yes. Davis. Yes. Donahue. Yes. Ford. Yes. Franz. Yes. Gilliam.
Yes.
Naaman.
Yes.
O'Shea.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Kazari.
Yes.
Ash.
Yes.
Pollock. No. Jeffro.
Yes.
Silva. Smith. Yes. Sherry. Taylor.
No.
Vasquez. Yes. Wadecki.
Yes.
Okay. The motion passes 18-3. Thank you very much. Okay, next on the agenda is the appointments. Now, great fun. Now, we're going to distribute, and if you can get some help to do this quickly. Good. Okay. Let's get those. Okay, this process of the appointments, and a lot these are our citizens stepping forward to share their expertise and helping. Some are paid positions. A lot of these appointments and reappointments haven't been made. We are trying in many steps to try to get this organized now. Yesterday afternoon, I received a telephone call that, what I had sent out to all the board members for your consideration back on Friday, that some of these commissions and committees and districts, that in order to move forward, we can't have the simple, approval consensus by consensus here, that some require resolution. So, I want to make sure that I follow all the procedures correctly, Mr. Donahue. I'm paying attention. And I would like you to take. We've gone through to sort, and I'm going to ask for a motion and a second on work that we can do today, and then we're just going to have to delay on others. Mr. Kenyon?
I want to compliment to you and your staff on the way you presented these in your email. I've only been here 8 years, but I've never seen it presented like that. It allows board members who vote on things we often don't know what people do, but you explained what the office was going to do.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kenyon. Appreciate it. Well, now, and let's reward that virtue with action then. Here are going to be, here's who I'm going to ask you to make a motion and a second. If you pull out that list, and by the way, again, this is just a beginning. This is not an end. So don't think that, oh my gosh, if it's not just perfect right now, I've lost this forever. No, we'll work this all together so that we have the best and brightest serving our mutual constituents. So if you'd mark with an asterisk, the people who you'll mark with an asterisk, I'm going to ask for the motion in the second. First of all, the Administration Adjudication Officer. Second, the Agriculture Conservation Easement Farmland Protection Commission. Third, Board of Health Advisory Committee. I mean, these are people who we can do today with your approval. If you turn to page 2, if you go down to the bottom, County Extension Board. Let's see. Actually, I think it's going to be less confusing if we do the more thorough approach. Let's go back to the top of the page. Administration Adjudication Officer, asterisk. Agriculture Conservation Farmland Protection Commission, asterisk. No action today on Big Rock drainage. No action today on Animal Control Administrator. Board of Health Advisory Committee, asterisk. We can work on that. We can get approval on that today if it's your wish. The CMAP Board, or the Chicago Metropolitan, no action today, so you could cross that. Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning Policy Committee, no action. County Building Officer, no action. County Engineer, no action. County Extension Board, asterisk. That would be for your consideration today. The Plat Officer, no action. County Zoning Enforcement Officer, no action. Delinquent Tax Sale Agent, no action. And then the Drinking and Driving Task Force, we are ready with the names, but that is one that needs a resolution. So if you put a no and resolution by that one we cannot move forward on today. On the next page, Economic Development Advisory Board, no action. Ethics Advisor, no action. Fox Valley Park District, no action. Grand Prairie Sanitary District, that's that requires a resolution, so you could mark by that resolution, so that's no action today, but a different type of no action. Then Historic Preservation Commission, that's an asterisk. The Judicial and Public Safety Technology Commission, that's an asterisk. The Kane County Board of Review takes a resolution. So that's a no because of a resolution. Kane County Community Development Committee, or Commission, no action today. Kane County Emergency Communications Board, the KaneCom, that's an asterisk, so we can handle that today if it's your desire. Kane County Emergency Telephone Systems Board, asterisk. Kane County Farmland Assessment Review Committee, that requires a resolution, so that's a no for now because of resolution. Kane County Liquor Control Commission, no action today. Kane County Office of Emergency Management Director, no action today. Road Impact Fee Advisory Committee, no action today. Kane County Stormwater Management Planning Committee, asterisk, that can be part of it. The Kane Elgin Home Commission, asterisk. Lake Marion River Conservancy District, that's no because it requires a resolution. Long Meadow Parkway Corridor Task Force, no action today. Mental Health Advisory Committee, no action today. Metro Board Director, no action today. Mill Creek Special Service Area Advisory Body, that's an asterisk, so we can do that today. Mill Creek Water Reclamation, that requires a resolution, so that's a no but a resolution. Then the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, no action today. Northwest Kane County Airport Authority, no action today. The PACE Board of Directors, no action. Plato-Rutland Drainage District, no action today. Public Aid Committee, that's an asterisk, so we can put that into the motion. Public Building Commission, asterisk. Regional Planning Commission, asterisk. RTA Board of Directors, no action today, that's done. Rob Roy Drainage District, that takes a resolution, so no action today. Sheriff's Merit Commission, no action today. Sugar Grove Drainage District requires a resolution, and so that's a no because of resolution. Then Upper Illinois River Valley Development Authority, actually that doesn't require board approval, but I'm going to ask you to put it into the, just to give a ratification of the thing, a non-controversial appointment. I'm going to ask you to ratify that, so that's an asterisk. And then a Zoning Board of Appeals, that's an asterisk also. So I'm going to ask you someone to make a motion and a second for all those that we can take action that you've marked with an asterisk. So who'd like to make that motion? Ms. Allen, second by Mr. Heyman. Now for discussion and thoughts. Any thoughts, discussions? Mr. Donahue.
I want to echo Mr. Kenyon's comments and compliment the chairman and particularly the staff person who was assigned this task to go through and research the origins of these things, to create the descriptions. This is a lot of staff time and a lot of work. It's presented very well. Also compliments on the task of going through and identifying key people to fill all these positions. It's a big job, and I think it should be recognized for the work well done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Donahue. I'd like to pass along the people, the three people who played the largest role, and there have been many more who have worked on it, including lawyers and personnel, human resources, but Mark Van Kerkhoff, Tim Harbaugh, and Scott Berger have led the way in organizing the thoughts and putting into a format that we can consider properly.
It's still out.
Other thoughts, questions? Ms. Wodnicki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are we passing all the resolutions with an asterisk together? Is that what
Yes,
we're going
I'd
to
like
do?
to.
Okay, I just want to briefly say that my heart's been in farmland protection for a long time, and in a recent telephone conversation, I thought I would be on this commission. I don't see my name here, but however, I'll take the high road, and I will support, especially with Mike being there as Chair of Development. I feel very comfortable with that, so thank you.
There is a vacancy that is listed for a board member that can be considered at a future time.
Okay,
so there's,
thank you.
we're holding a spot open. Others? If there are none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll. Oh, yes, to call the roll on your approval through consensus.
Order.
Yes.
There.
Yes.
Gassion. Yes. Davis. Yes. Donahue. Yes. Ford. Yes. Ross.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Heyman.
Yes.
Yes. Kenny.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Lush.
Yes.
Holly. Yes. Jeffro.
Yes.
Silva.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Vazquez. Yes. Wodnicki.
Thank you.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you very much. May I have your permission to go a little out of order? We're going to go into executive session. We have that today, and so it will be necessary. But before we go through, everybody leaving and then coming back in, we have two guest speakers with us today. Would it be all right with the board members if we allow those speakers to come so that, they've patiently waited almost an hour and 25 minutes now. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's go to the first speaker, Cheryl Poole. Cheryl, thank you very much for coming today. Cheryl Poole is from Pingree Grove. She has some thoughts that she'd like to share on precinct size disparities. So, Cheryl, do you think that it'd be okay, maybe 3 to 4 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for coming.
Yes. The reason I'm here today is because according to the state law, it is up to the county board next month at your regular meeting in June that you must change the precinct boundaries. If the precinct size is over 800, my personal precinct, Rutland Precinct 2, is 3,200 registered voters. It's an issue. It was an issue in getting campaign materials out. I needed 2 more weeks, even though I have assistants to help. It was especially an issue with the polling place. I have 7,400 people voting at the polling place. The only other polling place that's that large is at ECC. ECC has indoor waiting. I don't. I have a staircase. People were carrying infant carriers standing out in the rain at the last election. They were parking in the grass. We vote at the Eagles Club, which you may be familiar with. I looked at that and I thought, as long as I am precinct committeeman, this will not happen again. So that is why I'm here. I'm really angry. I cannot believe it got to this point that my precinct is 3,200 people. It's the largest one in the county. The only one that comes close is Sugar Grove, too. The average size precinct in the county is 900. They're not supposed to be over 800 according to state law. There is a state law, a bill in process, possibly bringing up to 1,300. Even then, I'm way over. So I am asking you, not for the whole county, not for large precincts, for my precinct, Rutland Precinct 2, please, next month, cut it in half. I really appreciate it. And that's it. I have distributed, and probably not enough copies, the estate law, and if you'd like to reference it, it is 10 ILCS 5-11-2, which gives you the ability to do this and requires it be done in June. If it's not done in June, the state law says it has to wait till the next June. Imagine how fired up I'm going to be then.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank
you
you.
very much for coming today. Okay, and with that, we're very fortunate today to have the county clerk. And Jack, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, she's correct. As you know, it's the county board's responsibility. We can't change the boundaries, but we can split the precincts when they get over a certain number.
Mm-hmm.
And over the years, the county board has, since I've been in office, we have split 13 precincts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the issue that's involved here, every time you split a precinct, you're talking about $25,000 for equipment, an additional $1,500 per year in judges' salaries, plus other things. So there's a financial thing here that we haven't really brought it up the last few years. But 3,200 is a large number, even though only 11% or 400 voted in that precinct in the last consolidated election. So I would rather, I hope people, as enthusiastically as they want the precinct split, will get people out to vote in consolidated elections, because we spend as much for a consolidated election as we do for a general election. But it may be time we look at some of these. We have a couple of them over 2,000. Now that sounds 3,200, but if you only have 50% of the people turning out on election day, that's only 1,600 people showing up. Our equipment that we have, the hard equipment, can handle more than others. And throughout the United States, we've done a survey, and it can handle about 1,500 votes. She's correct now. The legislature is looking at putting a number on, because their statutes right now say one portion of the statute that the state legislature says 600 per precinct, another says 800 per precinct. But if we would do that in the county, go down to 600 or 800, you'd have to come up with over $1,750,000 in equipment that you don't have. So I'd like to, we should split them down so they're reasonable. I agree with her, that's too large. And maybe, I think we've already put 4 new ones in Rutland of the 13 that we put in, so that has grown a lot over the years. Those precincts would be probably 6,000 with the growth you've had out there, ma'am, over the years. So this precinct I would suggest the board look at, and I would suggest it goes back to the Public Service Committee at our next meeting or so, where we can discuss this and then bring it back to a board in a more logical manner with all the issues involved covered.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr.
And then
Chairman.
Ms. Wodnicki?
This precinct is in my district. And after the last general election, I had numerous phone calls from senior citizens that live up there about the fact that they had to wait in line for 2 hours, and it finally got so bad that they left without being able to vote. And to me, that's a sacrilege, people not being allowed to vote. So this is something we have to look at and take care of.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Wodnicki?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Cheryl, I just want you to know we are not ignoring any of the precincts. We recognize that this is an issue. We've addressed the issue over several years, and it does come down to the cost. We passed a flat budget. The cost of splitting a precinct and getting all new equipment is extremely, extremely high. One thing I'd like to suggest is maybe get word out to have people come and early vote, and that has worked really, really well in Campton, just from past experience. Well, thanks for being here, Cheryl.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Taylor?
Cheryl, it's nice to see you. For those of you that don't know her, she's one of those insanely organized people, as we all know, and thank you for doing what you're doing. I have to tell you, I'm sure everybody that stood in line for 2 hours would probably disagree. It's a great problem to have that we have that many people that are passionate enough to go vote and will stand in line for that period of time to make that happen. So it compliments everybody that stood in that line for that amount of time. I agree, because they were outside. Is that correct? Yeah, they were outside? And I appreciate, I'm positive that the good thing is with the clerks, with Jack's office in Kane County, that's extremely proactive, as we all know, that he'll jump right on this, looking into it to see, and I totally agree, bringing it into committee and having that discussion on the front end. And I have to tell you, some of you that live around it obviously know, I didn't know this, and I do live by Sugar Grove too. So I have seen the lines. You just hope the weather's decent. I will make the assumption, you said there's stairs involved, correct? I assume there's handicap accessibility as well, correct? Okay, because I know that's one of the challenges in Sugar Grove too as well, and making sure that there's handicap accessibility to get people at least into the building. So, okay, kudos to you. Thanks for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Ms. Allen, as the chairman of the Standing Committee for Human Services, of Public Services, would this be an appropriate issue for your committee and its members to take up in their considerable wisdom to see if they can solve it?
I would think that would be an appropriate place to start.
Okay.
I believe that when we last split precincts, it ended up being discussed all the way through, heavy discussion at executive and
yes,
also.
And so it would progress from there.
Why don't we plan to start there if that's Mr. Cunningham's choice also? That's fine.
Thank you very much, Ms. Allen. Any other thoughts, comments? Okay. If not, our final constituent speaker is Alan Scott of Huntley. And Alan, thank you very much for coming today. You're going to address the proposed shooting range design and architectural work. Is 3 to 4 minutes?
That's more than enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep. One of the ongoing initiatives in front of this board is the shooting range for the Kane County Sheriff's deputies, and an estimated cost of $900,000. I happen to live in District 158, and they're putting an extension onto their high school, and the estimated cost was $12 million, and the architect engineer came in with 3 options: $36 million, $34 million, and $29 million. So these things can escalate extremely large. So are there some options that the sheriff has looked into? I know that when I go target shooting, I've used a new range called On Target that's in Crystal Lake. It's a brand new facility. They just opened it up, and they have at least 13 pistol lanes, and they have some rifle lanes as well. Gat Guns in Elgin is expanding. They're going to have rifle ranges there. Also, if you're looking for an outdoor range, the St. Charles Sportsman's Club is an outdoor range. It's got a lot of facilities there. Have all of these options been looked into? Has the Sheriff's Office contacted any of those people to see who were your architect engineers? Can I see the plans that you had? What was the estimated cost and what was the realized cost when all was said and done? These things are vitally important because this can escalate. One of the comments that the sheriff had made in a newspaper article, he had said, well, we do have the money to pay for this, so it's not going to be extra expense. You know, just because you got the money doesn't mean you should spend the money. All right, that's one of the tenets of how to live within your budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scott. Follow up on your suggestions. There's going to be a full consideration in the Standing Committee of the Administration Committee, Chairman Ron Ford. The proposal is coming in. I believe that it's next week. And so they're going to start into the process of considering and reviewing. Did they look at the options that you're speaking of? So thanks, Mr. Scott. Okay, and now, okay, so now the next step is executive session. May I have a motion to go into executive session? Mr. Vasquez, second by Ms. Lesh. The clerk will call the roll. This is to discuss settlement pending litigation.
Ellen? Aye. Auger?
Yes.
Guerrero?
Yes.
Castro?
Yes.
Davis? Donahue? Ford? Yes. Raz?
Yes.
Gillum?
Yes.
Heyman?
Yes.
O'Shea? Kenyon? Kenyon? Yes. Kazarick?
Yes.
Lash? Yes. Pollock? Sheffro? Silva? Smith?
Yes.
Taylor? Vasquez? Winecki?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. We'll go into executive session. By the way, when I was motion passes.
Would you expect music to play?
Okay, before I ask for a motion and a second to adjourn, I would like to acknowledge and welcome home our former board member, Bonnie Kunkel. Thank you very much for being here today. It's good to see you again. So with that, motion by Mr. Kenyon, second
I got one announcement I'd like to make.
Well, let's see. Second by Mr. Smith. But before we call the vote on that, Mr. Ford has a announcement.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On May 22nd, May Street Park, which is in Aurora, is located between Highland and May Street, just south of Illinois. It will be dedicated to a young, I can't really say young man, but I do call him a young man, Mr. Walters, who have ran a track club called Sundowners. This track club started in, I believe, around about 75 or 77, which he had dedicated to, he's a retired St. Charles school teacher. Once he retired, his love for track started with this, and it started off in encouraging young women to get involved and the opportunity to have scholarships. Now it's, for a long time, both male and female have been involved. I've had two of my kids. Actually, my youngest son is involved in Sundowners right now, and they travel all around the United States and participate in the national competition, which is like the Junior Olympics. And I've had the pleasure of being with them now for about 5 or 6 years. A couple years ago, my youngest son participated in the national level in shot put, disc, javelin, and 4x100. So I've been highly involved, but this is a very positive thing for us in Aurora.
It's good. It is a wonderful program, as well as the program over at East with Tom Boatwright's coaching. That's a great tradition in Aurora.
Oh, Boatwright started under Coach Walters, right. And so many kids, he decided to start his own club, and they've had many as 75 kids apiece at one given time.
Good. Okay. If not, Mr. Smith?
Memorial Day.
Sorry?
The Memorial Day ceremony.
Ah, that's right. Would you, Mr. Smith, would you like to, I know that it's May 27th, and go ahead.
May 27th, out on the front lawn in front of the memorial, it will be a program put on by our Veterans Assistance Commission.
At what time?
And I believe it's at 2 o'clock.
At 2 o'clock. I've asked Mr. Frost to take my place at that ceremony, which I appreciate, Drew, very much. God willing, Ted gets back from, our oldest son gets back from Afghanistan that weekend. And so hopefully, say a prayer, hold your breath. So thank you very much. With that, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it.